What about second breakfast?
Time for second breakfast.
What's up, everybody? Monster from Breakdowns for Breakfast here with another second breakfast. Today I want to talk about something I don't get to talk about as much as I would like to, and that's video games, specifically a very cool first-person horror game I played maybe a year or two ago now called Killer Frequency. Killer Frequency is this game that I'm a PlayStation Plus member or whatever on my PS5, and it was one of the free games one time, and I don't think I knew much about it other than it has this really cool cell shading type of animation. It takes place in the 80s, and the little icon for it was like a radio station with a somebody standing in the foreground with like a bloody knife. I thought, okay, this looks pretty cool. Let's give it a shot. Essentially, what the game is you play a radio DJ at this radio station in a very, very small little town while there is a murderer on the loose. And as you are being the town, quote-unquote, DJ, you're also sort of being the town 911 dispatch and puzzle solver. So it's a really cool concept, and it was a lot of fun to play. It's not a super long game. It's one of those games that you can kind of complete in 3 to 4 hours, maybe 5 hours tops, depending on how much you explore and do all that kind of stuff. But you basically spend the majority of the game in an 80s radio station booth. And it's really, really cool. I'm reminded of the movie, I want to say it was called Pontypool, I think is what it is, where it essentially takes place inside of a radio station while there's a zombie outbreak outside. And you never really see much of the outside world. It's very similar to this game. There's a bit in the beginning where you are actually like walking through the alleyway to get into the station, and I think there's some stuff later where you go out into the alleyway again. I think there's a mission where you're looking for a record that got thrown out the window, so you end up going back out there. But you spend most of the game in the radio booth. You have a, like your producers on the other side of this window. I think her name is Peggy or something like that. And you never really see her because she's behind the glass, but you're talking to her throughout the game. So like a caller will call in and say, they're having this crisis. They need some help. And you will put them on hold, and Peggy will say, oh, you know what? I remember we talked about that, me and such. I think there's a note on my desk. And so then you have to leave the booth and go find, Peggy's desk and do all that. So the game is very like, it's a mix of you in the booth and people calling in and them saying, I'm being chased. I don't know where to go. Should I go down this street or that street? And you having to say, okay, hold on, and checking the map and telling them where to go. There's sort of been an influx of games like this where you sort of almost choose your own adventure style. Now, this doesn't get quite as in the weeds as some of those games. I'm thinking of the super massive games like Until Dawn and The Quarry. And again, if you're not a big video game nerd, maybe this is all going over your head, but I feel like there's a lot of overlap. Guys that want to listen to me talk about nu metal probably like playing horror games too. So I feel like this is a safe space, but the game is sort of designed similarly where there is a way to everybody that calls in will survive, but it depends on you giving them the right answers and not missing clues and stuff like that. But essentially to give a little bit of the, I'm not going to go super in depth. This is not going to be, a super long episode or anything, but to give a little bit of the plot and the game feel and that sort of thing. Because I feel like if you are the demographic that likes to listen to shows like this and you like video games, I feel like you would like this game. So this is sort of my, and spoiler free, for two reasons. Number one, if this sounds interesting, I want you to be able to play it and have a good time with it, and not know the ending. And number two, it's been so long, I don't even really remember exactly how it ends. But essentially, okay, so the game Killer Frequency, it came out in 2023. It was a game jam game, which is essentially just sort of like where a group of people get a prompt and they create a game out of it, and this is what they created. It's a first-person horror / adventure / puzzle solving game. So it takes place in 1983, and so everything has this like bright neon 80s feel to it. And a matter of fact, when you are in the DJ booth, you're also playing music. You have records and cassettes, and there are a lot of like 80s synth wave, that kind of music. So there's all kinds of parts where it'll be like, I gotta go, and I'll be back in a few minutes. In the meantime, here's such and such. And you actually have to pick up the record and put it on the needle and play it, and go through those things. Then there's parts where you have to play commercials, station identification and stuff, where you have to grab the cassette and put it in. And so that part is kind of neat, in addition to the murder on the loose and the horror element, there's also sort of like a DJ simulator aspect to it too. But you play this character named Forrest Nash, who was a big time DJ in Chicago, but now you are in this small little town called Gallows Creek. And it's never really said exactly why you went from millions of listeners a day to dozens now in this tiny itty bitty little town. It's hard to tell if it's just declining popularity or if there might have been like an incident or something. But so there's this sort of like dichotomy of this guy. His name is Forrest Nash, where as Forrest, you're like, okay, sure, I'll help these, podunk backwoods people. But at the same time, you're like, God, I used to do interviews with the most famous people on the planet. Now I'm doing this, So this is a good time to mention there is an element of humor to the game. I do feel like the atmosphere and the actual kind of story is very creepy and very well executed. But some of the people that call and some of the things that they say, and there's a couple of reoccurring characters that keep popping up that are sort of like a little bit of the comic relief for certain moments. So I wouldn't necessarily go as far as calling it a horror comedy, but it's close. But Forrest Nash is actually voiced by an actor named Josh Cowdery, I think. I'm not familiar with him, but apparently he had roles in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and also Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Two things I've never watched. So I don't know. But so as you're, going through the motions of this game, it starts to, this mystery starts to, present itself. There's a murderer on the loose known as the Whistling Man. And as the game progresses, you get more clues as to who it could be, why they're doing what they're doing. And you sort of, I can't remember the exact parameters, but this is like the 10-year anniversary of the Whistling Man murders, and supposedly the Whistling Man is dead, but he's come back and he's murdering all these people in the same way. So, people are calling in saying, I think he's outside of my house. What do I do? And you talk them through different scenarios and stuff like that. And it's very creepy. It's very, very unsettling and creepy when you get a call. Like, I'm trying to think of some examples from the game. But like, for example, there's one where this guy is getting ready to go to a corn maze. I think it's called the Maze, and he's he hears somebody following him, and so he's lost in this corn maze and he's trying to escape. This is a good time to remind you that this game takes place in 1983, and he's calling you from a corn maze. So you gotta suspend your disbelief just a smidge to get through this, but it's well worth it. It's it's just like, sure, of course, he's got perfect signal in a corn maze in 1983 on a quote unquote cell phone. Sure, why not? So in order to guide him out, you have to go search the radio station for the corn maze map. So when you're in the booth, everything's lit up. You got your producer Peggy on the other side of the glass. Y'all are talking back and forth, and it's sort of like cozy in a way because everything's brightly lit and it's neon and whatever. But then you got to go to some like back office somewhere where you have to walk through this radio station and there's nobody else there, and it's quiet and it's dark and it's downright creepy. And the more you explore this radio station, because every time somebody calls, there's a reason for you to go look for something. And a lot of times, I discovered this too when I was playing it my first time, because of the way I like to play horror games. I was already like looking behind doors and checking where I could go and stuff. And again, just like any horror game, the more you play, the more the radio station opens up and the more places you can go and the more things you can find. But so you're walking through this radio station offices and stuff to find this map so you can get back on there and call him back and say, okay, when you come to this rock, make a left. And he says, well, I don't see a rock, I see a statue. And so you got to look at your map and say, okay, well, if you're at the statue, you need to go this way. It's a whole lot of little puzzles like that you have to solve. And it's entirely up to you. If you try really hard, but you tell him to go the wrong way and he dies, that's on you. I tried, just my nature when I play these games, I try really hard to keep everybody alive. But I think I did lose a couple people along the way because just not paying super close attention. But the atmosphere is really, really good. It's the kind of game that very, very seldom is it the kind of game that you have to make a really quick decision. They usually give you plenty of time. They try to, I remember a lot of it being timed, but having enough time to actually sit there and go, okay, what do I think is the right thing to do here? Because a lot of those games, again, I bring up the Supermassive, Until Dawn, The Quarry, some of those other ones, Man of Medan, where it's basically a quick time event. If you don't press X, as soon as it tells you to press X or you press square by accident, you're dead and it's over. And it's like, damn, it's kind of unforgiving. So on this, I feel like it is a little bit more forgiving. But it's very, there's something, I don't know. I'm a big fan of these like one location, kind of use your imagination kinds of things, because when somebody calls in and you can hear them talking, but you can hear the whistling man whistling in the background, or they're whispering to you because they're hiding somewhere and you can hear stuff being knocked around and stuff. It's genuinely terrifying. Like, it's very, very creepy and scary. So I really liked all that. Obviously, as the game progresses, you get deeper into the radio station, you find more clues, some more disturbing things, and you start to unravel the mystery of what's going on. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything. I barely remember, but I do remember it kind of escalating as the game goes on. So, as a horror movie guy, especially 80s horror movies, slasher movies, also a big music guy, this is awesome. Killer Frequency is a very, very cool game. It does not take you a super long time to finish it. It's a fun puzzle game. If you, there's all kinds of stuff to just like little Easter eggs and stuff that you can find lying around the station. I don't remember all, but I remember there being all kinds of nods to old horror movies and stuff. I want to say one of the people that you talk to a lot is named Carrie, obviously for Stephen King universe. And there's other stuff like that. There might be a Ramiro in there, stuff like that. So, but yeah, if you like horror games and you've played all the big ones and you like sort of the smaller indie ones, Killer Frequency came out in 2023. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. If nothing else, go online, Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, all those guys. If you like watching Let's Plays, I think most of them have it on their channels. And yeah, it's really cool. Is this a game you've played? Do you like video games? Am I just talking to the void, or do we have some crossover music fans and video game fans here? I can't be the only one. So yeah, let me know what you think, and I hope you have a great day.